Did you know that Estée Lauder, the iconic cosmetics founder and beauty pioneer, originally dreamed of becoming an actress? Welcome to the Cosmetic Chronicles, the podcast where history meets beauty and tells the amazing stories behind some of the world's most notorious brands. I'm your host, Sarah Carvalho, and I'm a beauty journalist who has been obsessed with makeup since my first swipe of mascara. In this episode, we're covering the long and storied history of Estée Lauder. You may have actually heard about them in the news more recently, since there have been a lot of shifts, both at the top of the company. We heard multiple Estée Lauder family members stepping down for the first time ever, and then also trickling down all the way to the employees. There was just a huge round of layoffs. About 7,000 people were laid off in just May of this year. So there seems to be a new era of Estée Lauder on the horizon. Not sure what that looks like, but I'll be interested to see how they adapt to the future of beauty. But more on that later. For me personally, Estée Lauder always represented what I called the high-class department store counter chic, also known as the things I can't afford. I can't say I remember specific makeup products by them, but I remember their lavish Christmas boxes and skincare sets. Even before I knew what a skin repair oil was, I knew that they were kind of the place to get it. And then as I dove more into the makeup world as I grew up, I learned more about the double wear foundation being a staple for a lot of people, particularly makeup artists. But I still can't say I ever tried any makeup from them until very recently. I actually ended up doing a few gifted collabs with them over on my Instagram, Glow and Flow by Sarah. And I was really impressed by their gorgeous kind of thin matte lipstick in particular. It was absolutely stunning. The packaging is gorgeous and it was just a really beautiful formula. But I still feel like I don't hear about their makeup very much. I hear about all the brands they own. Again, more on that later. But I don't really know what their makeup, who they're kind of aspiring to reach with their makeup these days. It's kind of hard to know what they're going for. But right now, let's go back to the very beginning. I want to say at the top of the episode that I will be linking all of my sources in the show notes, but the brand does a great job of having a lot of their history on their own website. So it's a great resource on its own and definitely came in handy for today's episode. I also really want to give a shout out to cosmeticsandskin.com. I used them in the previous episode as well, and they did such amazing research about every single product that was launched by them, and there are a lot. So I will be using them a lot. I will call them out particularly when I am using their source, but I just really wanted to call those two out at the top of the episode because they were hugely helpful. This is a long history that we're going over, so put on those headphones, grab some dishes, and let's dive into it. So the human herself, Estée Lauder, was actually born Josephine Esther Menser in New York City. Her dad, Max Menser, was a businessman from the former Czechoslovakia, and Rose Schotz, who I only saw described as a Hungarian beauty, which is what a lovely way to be described. For a long time, people claimed that no one actually knew Estée's birth date because she would famously tell people, quote, "I tell you, it simply doesn't matter," which, like, hell yeah, I love that. But it was later determined that she was born on July 1st, 1908, a Cancerian businesswoman queen. We love to see it. Also, ironically, I am filming this episode on July 1st, so happy birthday to Estée herself. So anyways, her name was Josephine Esther. Her parents called her Etsy, which was later changed to Estée when she enrolled in school, and it stuck. So Essie lived with her family above her father's hardware store in Corona, Queens, right on Corona Avenue. And working in her father's store would help give her a taste of running a business and what it would be like to work in retail. However, at the same time, Essie actually dreamed of becoming an actress. She believed actresses were the epitome of beauty. And so she was kind of going down that road. She even acted at the Cherry Lane Theater in New York City, which is really no small feat. That's pretty impressive. After finishing school, she married Joe Lauder in 1930, and they lived in Manhattan when their first child, Leonard, was born, March 19th, 1933. Leonard will come back, so just remember, first child, Leonard. So while she was still dreaming of the stage, she also started working with her uncle, whose name was Dr. John Schotz. He was a chemist, and this is actually where she got the taste for the beauty industry. John sold beauty products like creams, lotions, blushes, and fragrances through his company, New Way Laboratories. Combined with her experience watching her mom's skincare ritual each night, Estée began to take serious interest in the formulation of products. Her interest in skincare finally overtook her acting dreams and famously said, quote, "I wanted to see my name in lights, but I was willing to settle for my name on a jar." Hilarious. I love her. Working with her uncle had a profound effect on how Estée viewed the importance of quality skincare products. She says, quote, "He captured my imagination and interest as no one else ever had. I was smitten with Uncle John. He understood me. What's more, he produced miracles. I watched as he created a secret formula, a magic cream potion with which he filled vials and jars and any other handy container. It was a precious velvety cream, this potion, one that magically made you sweetly scented, made your face feel like spun silk, made any passing imperfection gone by evening." End quote. Estée began selling her uncle's creams on the road, including his eczema ointment, skin ointment, and the product she named herself, the Super Rich All-Purpose Cream. Her first foray into commercial success actually occurred after the owner of a hair salon called the House of Ash Blondes asked her how she got such perfect skin. She returned to the salon with her uncle's creams and showed the customers how to use them. She was then asked to sell them at the salon. And it was kind of challenging to find a lot of information about her during this period. So this would be about 1933 to 1945. But according to that great piece by cosmeticsandskin.com, she was on the road selling goods between New York and Florida. She and her husband Joe would divorce in 1939, but would reconcile in 1943. And they would then have their second son, Ronald, born in 1944. And so this brings us to 1946. This is when the Estée Lauder Cosmetics Company was founded. Joseph took control of the manufacturing side of the business, while Estée took care of the products and the sales. The first range of products that I could find were this kind of skincare pack. Essentially, Estée combined her 4 skincare products into a simple facial routine. So this home facial kit included a cleansing oil, which was a deep pore cleanser, a cream pack, which was to lift and firm the skin and stimulate circulation. That Super Rich All-Purpose Cream, which was noted as a cleanser, lubricant, night cream, conditioner, and foundation in one. Okay. I don't, scientifically, I don't know how that's possible, but sure. And a skin lotion, a gentle, astringent, delightfully cool and refreshing. It feels like a lot of creams, but okay. Along with selling her products on the road, Estée eventually got a counter in Saks Fifth Avenue. This is in 1947, followed by Bonwit Teller in Boston, Chicago, and Philly, and eventually Neiman Marcus in Dallas in 1951. So she was kind of building up these counter spaces city by city. And according to Cosmetics and Skin, by then her skin creams had been repackaged in containers manufactured by a company called T.C. Wheaton and painted in a shade that later became known as Estée Lauder Blue. So also dug up by Cosmetics and Skin was this order history that show her early range not only included these facial kits, but also included face powder, lipstick, and eyeshadow, as well as a cream and dry blush. So according to Estée Lauder, the original shades of her lipstick included Duchess Red. Her eyeshadow was a turquoise and a cream blush that was named Glow that was supposed to, quote, harmonize with all complexions. And then by 1951, the lipsticks also came in 2 other shades, Duchess Coral and Duchess Melon, with additional shades added to all the product ranges through the 1950s. The cream base face powder may have also debuted in that single shade, Honey Glow, but was eventually produced in 7 shades by 1951. So something I found really interesting in my research was the reasoning behind Estée Lauder really wanting to focus on department stores. Now, there's the obvious lure of wanting to sell in a department store, right? You have foot traffic, you have people coming. If you're at these big name department stores, you already kind of have a association with luxury and high brand and worthiness, right? But something else that was brought up in the research was that this was also the time before credit cards. So department stores like these high-end department stores would offer customer accounts, almost like a tab. And these department stores would have customers' addresses because they needed them in order to, if they had to collect payment or whatever, they would know where these people lived. That sounds threatening, but you know what I mean. And according to cosmeticsandskin.com, Estée convinced the stores to use these addresses so that they could send customers a card that would be exchanged for a free gift at an Estée Lauder counter. Those free gifts would later become a gift with purchase. Now, does that sound familiar? I still get these gift with purchases for Estee Lauder from Macy's. Like, they are a part of everyone's mailbag. She thought, let's use the addresses, send them something to bring them in. And she was like, let's find a way to bring the customer back to our counter, but also for the department store, it will help you bring them back in the door, and they might go off and spend money elsewhere as well. So I loved this quote from the Cosmetics and Skin article, so I'm just going to share it here. They said, quote, Estee Lauder was not the first cosmetic company to give away free cosmetics, nor to offer a free gift with purchase, but no one used it more effectively, end quote. So sometimes you don't have to be the first to be the smartest. So now let's get into the Youth Dew era of Estee Lauder. Now, if you are an Estee Lauder devotee, if you really know the brand, then Youth Dew should be ringing some bells, because that apparently is a very popular product. I didn't know until I did this research. So in 1951, she introduced what was called the Estée Lauder Youth Dew Cream. So this was famous for using an entire egg in the product, and it could be used as a night cream or a base for makeup. So the Cosmetics and Skin article, they have some amazing imagery of some of the old ads from Estee Lauder, like pure perfection. And I'm going to read from one directly, which literally is just a picture of two eggs, two whole eggs. And the name or the title of this just says "The Egg in Estee Lauder." And this is what it says. Estee Lauder's clients have long claimed that her creams were, quote, good enough to eat, end quote, besides being immeasurably good for complexions. Her latest cream is a genuine innovation. It includes in its formula the whole egg, reinforced with ingredients which act on the skin like hormones, but which are not. Its effects, a lovely dewy freshness, and in time, an effective blandishment against wrinkles. A soft, unquestionably beautifying cream. The name, Estée Lauder, at Saks Fifth. That's amazing. So I don't think she was the first one to ever use an egg, but it was highly advertised that this is what they used. So this obviously was very popular. So in 1952, she added the Estée Lauder Youth Dew Flowing Emulsion, which was noted as a rich, light moisturizer and powder base in one to help soothe away lines and wrinkles. So this feels like a primer to me based on today's terms. And then she later came up with the Estée Lauder Youth Dew Liquid Concentrate, which was, quote, a facial preparation so highly concentrated, a few drops daily helps to lift, firm, and tone. All these sound so enticing. And then in 1953, she introduced her first fragrance, the Estée Lauder Youth Dew Bath Oil. Now, this was a really big deal. So it was initially promoted as a skin restorative bath oil, but it eventually became so popular that they just dropped the Estée Lauder part of it and just called it the Youth Dew Bath Oil. And the reason why this was such a big deal is women loved the smell of this so much that they began to not only use this in their baths, but also as perfume. And that was something that Estée herself predicted. So she had a feeling, because I guess at this time, women never bought themselves perfume. That was like not considered like a thing you did. Only men could buy you perfume or something. I don't know. Sure. But at the time, women didn't buy themselves perfume. So Estée was like, listen, we're going to make this bath oil, but I'm guaranteeing you that the women will want to start wearing this as a perfume. And they did. And because it was sold as a bath oil, not perfume, women felt free to enjoy it and wear it every day. And also smartly, in terms of marketing and sales, instead of using Youth Dew by the drop, they were using it by the bottle because they were putting it in their bath and then also using it. So they would go through it a lot faster. And in my opinion, that's why in the first year it sold 50,000 bottles. And then apparently by 1984, that figure had risen to 150 million. 150 million bottles in like the what? Don't make me do math. 31 years this has been out in the world. So this huge success of this bath oil perfume has been widely credited with giving Estee Lauder a firm foundation in the cosmetics world. That was kind of where people were like, they're in for the long haul. So she naturally built on the success of this bath oil by creating multiple products around that Youth Dew scent. So that included a soap, a bath powder, a dusting powder, a skin perfume, a satine, I wish I knew what that was, and an eau de parfum, just a few examples. So by 1958, so remember, the Youth Dew bath oil came out in 1953. So by 1958, this Youth Dew range accounted for 80% of Estee Lauder's sales. As you can imagine, during my research, I became obsessed with wanting to know what this smelled like. I know I could probably just go to Nordstrom's and smell it myself, but that's not as fun. And I'm terrible at actually describing scents. I've realized that. So I was like, someone out there has got to do this. And I found someone. It is a great personal writing and perfume blog that's called A Tea Scented Library, which was founded by someone doing the Lord's work and describing scents in the most beautiful, lyrical way without having to smell it yourself. So definitely check out that site after you're done listening here. This is what they had to say about the Estée Lauder Youth Dew, which they reviewed in 2020. This is a quote. Estée Lauder's very first perfume, Youth Dew, is neither youthful nor remotely dewy. It is, however, a lot of other things. Deep, warm, enveloping, dramatic, and most important of all, utterly unforgettable. There are aldehydes, just as fatty, but not nearly as intense as in Chanel No. 5, giving Youth Dew an old-fashioned perfumey character. Dated or glamorous, take your pick. Then a generous, and I say generous, dusting of cinnamon and clove-led spices comes through, along with creamy sandalwood. I'd say they make up the core of the scent. Base notes sing louder, however, with incense and balsamic resins, deep amber, dark patchouli, and powdery warm vanilla, all balancing each other. Youth Dew is one of those perfumes you'll probably remember even if you only smell it once. It is that full of character, and therefore somewhat hard to describe. To me, this scent evokes velvet, heavy and opaque, yet shiny, warm, and plush. It evokes a 1950s elegant lady arriving at the family's Christmas party, a smile on her red painted lips. End quote. Now tell me that's not the most poetic description of a perfume. I can feel like I can smell it. And now I'm desperate to smell it. And by the way, just so you know, the Youth Dew line, including that bath oil, the dusting powder, the satiné, all of that is still available. You can still buy that on esteelauder.com. So if you are intrigued, you can go smell it. Or if you already love it, it's still available. Keep buying it. Okay, so back to the brand. From the 1950s to the 1970s, the brand also released a teen line of facial care, along with more lipsticks, a lip gloss, lip liners, liquid eyeliner, shadow sticks, nail polish, leg makeup, okay, and a ready-to-wear eye makeup collection. Now, this was really interesting because with this collection came demonstrations that were conducted in stores across the country, and some of them were led by a makeup artist named Jeffrey Bruce, who was actually the first makeup artist hired by Estée Lauder. So that was kind of those in-store demos, or maybe master classes that we see nowadays. And that was part of the marketing for the ready-to-wear eye makeup collection. Also during these years, they created Aramis, which is a collection of men's toiletries and cosmetics, and a little-known brand called Clinique. I had no idea they made Clinique, by the way. That was a fun little surprise. And there were just so many products that came out during these decades that we would be here all night if I listed them. But again, Cosmetics and Skin did an amazing job listing them all out, describing each of them, letting you know when they came out. It's amazing, and it's a deep dive. It's fascinating, but you and I will be here until the end of time if I get into it. But I do want to call out 1982 specifically, because this is when Estée created the first ever night serum, also known as the infamous Night Repair. Still kicking, still I think their number one seller. It's reported that Estée was one of the first to understand that the skin is best able to repair itself at night, and that a lightweight texture, what we now know as a serum, was better able to penetrate into the skin surface to help it repair. And the Night Repair was also the first to use an apothecary-style brown bottle to help protect the formula's active ingredients. Now, I don't know if you've seen the bottle. It is absolutely stunning. It feels heavy and luxurious, but you also get a lot of it too. It's expensive, don't get me wrong, but it is a really beautiful, beautiful serum. Something that's important to note during this time as well is that Estée Lauder was not only expanding its range of products, but also they were expanding production facilities both in the United States and internationally. And this became a huge part of how they were able to grow globally, was that they were literally creating factories and facilities in other countries to help make their products closer to the consumers that were interested in buying. So by the mid-1960s or so, Estée Lauder was operating 4 factories on Long Island, as well as a warehouse in Hicksville. But they decided to create a brand new factory in Melville, Long Island, that would incorporate all of those factories, everything those factories did, and also a research and development, or R&D center, which they then eventually did, opened in 1967. They also registered a Whitman Laboratories in Toronto, Canada, which then established a branch of that laboratory in Hampshire, in Britain, in 1967. And then following, European manufacturing facilities were also built in Belgium and later in Switzerland. So they were kind of during this time, the late 60s and 70s, they were starting to really build out their actual manufacturing facilities all across the world. And interestingly, in the 1960s, the number one rival of Estée Lauder was Revlon, which I find really surprising just because they're so different now, right? But yeah, in the 1960s, that was their number one rival. Remember Leonard Lauder? Ooh, that's a mouthful. Leonard Lauder. He was Estée and Joe's firstborn son. He ended up joining the company in 1958 at the age of 25. And he was someone who talked a lot about this Revlon rivalry. So Revlon was the giant of American beauty in 1960. And it's considered that number two was Elizabeth Arden, and then Helena Rubinstein and Charles of the Ritz. So those were kind of the top sellers in the beauty world. So Revlon was the most aggressive company of the four mentioned, and Leonard suggests that Charles Revson of Revlon vigorously tried to counter the rise of Estée Lauder by copying its products and promotional methods. He said, quote, "There was a joke that went around our offices. 50% of Revlon's R&D is done here." End quote. And something Cosmetics and Skin said was the new game in the cosmetic industry was follow the Lauder. Love that. They should just use that as an ad. They really should lean into that more. You know what I mean? Like, I think if I was going to run Estée Lauder, they're going to ask after this, I'm sure. And I think if I were to run them, I would really lean on the fact that not just that the name, everyone knows the name, but more about we created the first serum. We developed these first, bath oil perfumes, like kind of go off of the innovation that was made through this company and everything that Estée did and like everything she learned from her uncle, and just kind of like really lean into the fact that they really did a lot of research and development, that they were leading the pack in a lot of ways. And they should use that follow the Lauder as the tagline. Okay? That will be $5 million in consulting fees. Thank you. Okay, so anyway, back to Revlon. Oh, I'm again quoting Cosmetics and Skin here. They said Revson of Revlon copied Estée Lauder not only to counter its rise, something he had done to other companies very effectively in the 1950s, but also because he was worried about Revlon's declining status. Unfortunately for Revlon, one of Revson's strategies was working against him. His determination to cover all aspects of the cosmetic market, to become the, quote, General Motors of the cosmetic industry, meant that he continually expanded the reach of the Revlon brand. Unfortunately, this exclusivity and status that Revlon once held was diluted every time its product range was widened. Estée Lauder avoided this problem either by creating new businesses each time it moved into a new segment of the cosmetic market. So, for example, they did this with Clinique for kind of trying to advertise to a younger crowd, or by buying up companies that were already strong in those areas and maintaining their identity. In this way, the company could sell cosmetics covering a wide variety of price points and target markets while maintaining the status of the Estée Lauder name, end quote. So I really wanted to pinpoint this because when I was saying that I found that Revlon being the number one rival of Estée Lauder doesn't make a lot of sense, is because I know Revlon as it is now, which is kind of this very broad brand, and there's no really exclusivity or status with Revlon anymore. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way. I think it's great to have accessibility and an affordable price point. And I'm just saying, I don't know if that's what Revlon had originally wanted, but I find that very interesting that because of this kind of wanting to do too much, they ended up becoming diluted. Whereas Estée Lauder was like, listen, if we're going to go into men's, we're going to create a new business. It's not Estée Lauder Men's, it's our miss. Or if we're going to go for the younger crowd, we're going to create Clinique and let that be its own thing. Or if someone's already doing it really well, we're going to buy them, but make sure that they keep their identity. We don't make them an Estée Lauder looking company. That's very smart. And I think that there's a reason why they eventually became known for buying so many brands. And I do feel like there might be a deeper dive into Revlon versus Estée Lauder in our future. But for now, I just wanted to note that about buying up companies, because I do think that's something Estée Lauder is known for now. And for an example, I have a quick timeline of the brands that they acquired. So in 1994, they acquired a majority interest in MAC and became the full owner in 1998. In 1995, they acquired Bobbi Brown and La Mer. In 97, they bought Aveda. In 99, they acquired Jo Malone, London. And in 2000, they acquired Bumble and Bumble. And to this day, they also own Balmain Beauty, Deciem, The Ordinary, Dr. Jart, Kilian Paris, Glam Glow, Le Labo, Smashbox, Tom Ford, and Too Faced. Estée herself retired in 1994, and the brand went public on November 16th, 1995, with the majority of the shares, and therefore control of the company, remaining in the hands of the Lauder family. So Leonard, the firstborn son, served as the president of the Estée Lauder company from 1972 to 95, and as the chief executive officer from 1982 through 1999. He was named chairman in 1995 and served in that role through June of 2009. His son eventually took over in other capacities, but Leonard was really there for a majority of his life. And he actually just passed away on June 14th of this year, so only a couple weeks ago at the age of 92. And Estée herself passed away on April 24th, 2004 at the amazing age of 95. And the day-to-day management of the company remained in the family's hands until just recently, the end of 2024, when the last remaining family members, which included the grandson, William Lauder, Leonard's son, and granddaughter, Jane Lauder, announced that they would be stepping down. And this departure marked the first time in 75 years that a member of the Lauder family would not be involved in the day-to-day operations. Family still obviously retain significant influence as major shareholders in the brand, but I definitely see a shift in the future of Estée Lauder. Between those family members stepping down, a new CEO starting in 2025, thousands of layoffs, and shares that reportedly fell nearly 40% in 2024, I'm really curious to see what they do next because, like I said, I just don't think relying on a prestigious name can work anymore, at least on its own. There's just too many brands out there, and there's a lot of high-end luxury brands now, and I think that sometimes Estée Lauder might get lost in the sea of other high-end brands, especially the ones that are becoming really popular with the youths. You know, I'm seeing Hourglass, YSL, Dior, I'm seeing all of Chanel, I'm seeing all of them on TikTok with the young people. So it's not that people won't spend the money, it's just that they want to see something interesting, something innovative. You can't just say, oh, this is Estée Lauder, so you should want to have it. You gotta show why now. There's just too much competition. And so I'll be really curious to see what they do. I think that they have years of amazing experience behind them. I am honestly excited to see what they do. I think it's time that they shake things up, and I can't wait to see what that looks like. So those were the Chronicles of Estée Lauder. What do you think of the brand? Where do you think they should go from here? Leave me a comment and definitely let me know your thoughts. I would love to read them all. Thanks for tuning in, and feel free to share some of the brands you'd like to see covered on this podcast. And I'll see you next time on the Cosmetic Chronicles.